Now, before we close this topic, I want to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of registering outside India. Now, while India is a decent place to do business, it's not the greatest. There are countries like Singapore, Estonia, and even United States where you can register a company and have better benefits. Now, if you want to register a business in the United States, you can look at something called Stripe Atlas. Now, Stripe is a payment gateway provider, and Stripe Atlas is their official company creation plus payment gateway platform. Now, in one shot, you can have a US based company and a payment gateway thanks to Stripe Atlas. With Estonia, you will need something called an e-residency card, and then you will need to create a digital company. Now, what I really like about Estonia is that all their transactions are digital and you don't have to do anything on paper. Because as founders of your company, you will be absorbing a lot of risk and there will be a lot of paperwork for you to do. An entirely paperless ecosystem makes a lot of sense. So you might want to consider moving your company to Estonia. Countries like Singapore have a much higher ease of doing business than India. Another advantage with Singapore, which companies like Flipkart take advantage of, is the fact that when you sell the company, there is a lower capital gains tax that you pay. Also, most private investors and VCs love Singapore because it's so easy to do business there and it's so easy to invest capital and take it out later. Also, one last thing about Singapore. Singapore is one of the best places to keep IP, which is intellectual property rights. If you're building extremely good technology that nobody else should be able to replicate, registering in Singapore is a good idea because you can actually reserve the IP and Singapore will actually fight hard to keep that IP with you. Registering a company in Singapore is much more expensive than registering a company in India. It costs anywhere between 3 to 6 lakhs to open a new company in Singapore, and that's on the cheaper side. You will also need a resident director who is somebody who actually lives in Singapore to be one of your co-founders. Apart from that, a virtual office becomes almost mandatory. I'm going to link you to a longer resource which talks about the differences between Singapore and America and Estonia and so on and so forth, especially when it comes to registering companies, and you can make that choice wisely. For Meta Startup, it makes the most sense to register a company in India because a lot of what we speak about is going to be India specific and you will primarily be selling to India as well. Now, I'm going to rearrange Meta Startup a little bit. There's a topic in the future called Startup Cap Tables from Birth to Death, and I'm going to be bringing that up so that from the next episode onwards, we start discussing what it's like to actually manage and work with cap tables, which is a table of all the investors, promoters, directors, and so on and so forth in your company, and how that changes as you raise debt, equity, and even make revenue. So I'm going to be bringing those topics upwards so that we can review them before we go into actually starting the meat of your startup. This is Varun Maya calling it a day. And as usual, if you like this video, go follow me on Instagram and tag your friends. All of this content is free and always will be.